AI tools and virtual companions are continuing to develop at a breakneck pace, as shown by the new capabilities included with the release of Service Pack 2 for SOLIDWORKS 2026. Back in Service Pack 1, we witnessed the debut of the Leo Virtual Companion and tools like SolidWorks Insight, Assembly Structure Design, and Drawing Creation. And together, these prompt-based AI tools prove to be able to answer design questions, provide feedback, and automate certain tasks. SP2 continues this trajectory with the introduction of several new AI tools in beta mode. These are focused on improving performance, minimizing repetitive tasks, and making better design decisions so you can stay focused on the creative aspect of CAD. More specifically, Service Pack 2 includes access to AI tools to help you evaluate assembly performance, create parametric features for imported STEP and IGES files, and understand the impact of proposed design changes. But with these being beta tools, some of them aren't quite working as intended yet. So stay tuned to see what's included, what works today, and what we're still waiting on. Now, this is a big video covering several subjects, so to simplify navigation, you can use these timestamps to skip ahead to the tools you're most interested in. Feel free to pause here for a closer look at the various AI tools we'll be covering, and please note that there's several other non-AI enhancements included with this service pack that we've covered in a separate video titled Service Pack 2 Enhancements 2026. So be sure to check that out if you'd like to learn more about improvements for the user interface, sheet metal, drawings, and more. As a quick reminder, if you purchase the 2026 edition of SOLIDWORKS, or if you're on active subscription, you already have access to Service Pack 2 and all the new features we'll be covering here. Visit solidworks.com/support/downloads, click Access Downloads, then log in with your 3D Experience ID to get access. Additionally, to use the AI tools included with this service pack, you'll also want to make sure that the 3D Experience add-in is loaded within SOLIDWORKS and that you're logged into your 3D Experience account. And with all that out of the way, let's take a look at the first new AI tool for SP2. The first AI tool on our list today automatically generates parametric features for imported STEP and IGES models, which lets you modify them very easily and allows design intent to be applied for better flexibility. This new capability fits somewhere in between the existing direct editing and FeatureWorks tools you may already be familiar with. With the STEP or IGES file open, check the Insert dropdown for a new item that says Convert to Geometry Beta. If this option appears grayed out, it's likely because you haven't activated the 3D Experience add-in and logged in, or the file type you have open isn't supported. Once selected, Convert to Geometry will ask you to save the file to the 3D Experience platform if you haven't already. So specify a collaborative space and a bookmark as needed, then click Save. Next, you'll be presented with the option to either suppress the original body or delete it. And this is really just a matter of preference, but if you're unsure, go with the suppress option, since this will allow you to access the original body again later if you need to for any reason. Then, even though it seems like it would be optional, you have to click Generate Preview before clicking OK, otherwise you'll get an error. The preview then appears, showing you what you can expect the final result to look like, and from here you can click OK to complete the command. Now, as you can see, the result is a rather long list of extruded bosses, cuts, sketches, reference planes, and fillets, and I absolutely think this can be really useful as a starting point, especially for relatively simple designs, but there are some limitations. It's only available for single body STEP and IGES files, so if you're working with a different file type, you're out of luck for now. Additionally, with some investigation, you'll likely notice that the overall design intent is pretty severely lacking, and that's one of the biggest limitations of this tool currently. Convert to Geometry doesn't create feature patterns or use end conditions intelligently. So you'll notice that the hinge portion of this enclosure is made up of 4 bosses, 4 cuts, and 4 planes, which almost certainly isn't the smartest way to do it. The sketches it creates also lack dimensions and sketch relations, so going from this result to a model with good design intent is going to take quite a bit of work still. Lastly, I'd like to point out that this enclosure is a sheet metal design, but this tool currently has no way of knowing that. So as you can see, we have no sheet metal features to speak of here in the design tree. As I mentioned before, I think this tool fits somewhere between direct editing and FeatureWorks. It provides more control and flexibility than direct editing features, which are still going to be the best for simple modifications, but it's faster and simpler than FeatureWorks, which is still the best choice for a full parametric conversion, since it can recognize patterns and sheet metal features and offers an interactive mode. The new convert to geometry capability will likely end up as another tool in your tool belt to use depending on your specific situation, but you'll want to be familiar with it regardless. So try it out and see what you think. I'd also like to point out that you can find this exact same tool by clicking the feature generator icon, which you'll find alongside the other AI tools we'll be covering today in the SOLIDWORKS Lab tab. So that icon won't be getting its own separate section. Now, with all that being said, let's move on to the first of our prompt-based AI tools, Material Appearance Assignment. This and all the remaining tools we'll be covering in this video can be found in the SOLIDWORKS Labs tab in the task pane once you've activated the 3D Experience add-in and logged in. We've already covered the first 3 AI tools in the mechanical design category in our previous video on AI tools for Service Pack 1, so be sure to check that out if you missed it. The Material Appearance Assignment tool is intended to help you apply appearances to assembly components by using natural language prompts, which is to say that you can describe appearances you want to apply and the components you want to apply them to, and the Leo Virtual Companion will do it for you. The first thing I'd like to mention is that you need to make sure your assembly components are resolved before trying this. Appearances can't be applied to lightweight components, and it'll cause the tool to error out if you try. Using component names in your prompts is a reliable way to get good results. Here I've asked Leo to apply a green appearance to the corner brace controller component, and it does a great job even applying it to both instances. I can ask it to give the spoiler board component a mahogany look, and it works perfectly. This is an easy and pretty natural way to apply appearances, but as of right now, the terms you use in the prompts have to refer to information that exists in the component name or custom properties within the component in order to be successful. To show a quick example of what I mean by this, notice that many of our subassemblies and components have pretty generic part numbers as their names. And this includes the frame subassembly, which is listed as Ultra 0002. If I try to prompt the tool to apply an appearance to something a bit more descriptive, like weldment frame subassembly, it thinks for a bit and ends up applying the requested appearance to a whole bunch of components that I didn't intend it to, because all of them found some sort of semantic match with weldment frame subassembly. Now, I won't pretend to understand all the details of why exactly this happens, but if you run into a situation where you don't like the results, you can just type undo to revert the changes. If I now instead prompt it to make Ultra 0002 red, we get the exact results we were looking for, and again, it does a great job in this case. So what's the takeaway here? Material Appearance Assignment is great in situations where your assembly components have meaningful names, descriptions, etc. that you can refer to when prompting, in which case it can apply appearances quickly and in large batches just based on your description. That being said, don't expect a descriptive semantic prompt to properly identify components if they have generic names or if they're lacking metadata. Regardless, this tool is pretty fun to use, so I encourage you to check it out, and I have to imagine it's only going to improve over time. The next tool on our list is Assembly Performance Analysis, also known as the Assembly Doctor, and it's a great way to get some quick insights on assembly performance while allowing you to ask questions and get highly detailed answers using natural language prompts. This information can be paired with the performance evaluation and assembly visualization tools to help you quickly identify and resolve issues that might be slowing you down or causing huge file sizes. To get started, click on the tool and enter a prompt. In this case, I've started out pretty generic here by asking Leo what it thinks of my assembly in terms of performance. Right away, it identifies a critical issue, which is that I have several flexible subassemblies slowing things down. This is intentional, as I'm using them to show motion within the assembly, but it's definitely having a performance impact. Now, I can swap these subassemblies back to rigid very quickly, and that should speed things up. Scrolling down, it also lets me know that one of my components in particular has a very high triangle count, which is tough on the graphics card. I can resolve this by suppressing it until I need it, since this isn't a critical component, or as recommended by the Assembly Performance Analysis tool, I could use a command like defeature or simplify to create a configuration with less detail and fewer triangles to deal with. Now, as a side note, this same component would be highlighted through the use of performance evaluation and assembly visualization, but there wouldn't be any recommended solutions to go along with it, which can be really helpful. Continuing down this list, there are several other issues that have been identified and solutions that have been proposed, but I'd like to see how much of an impact these changes I made have actually had. So let's ask. According to the analysis, we've significantly reduced the mate solving overhead and lowered our memory usage, but if we'd like to take this even further, it suggests looking into top-level mates for over-definition or lack of constraints. Now, what you've seen here seems to be just the beginning of what's possible with this tool, so we encourage you to explore it for yourself and try asking some more specific and detailed questions about your assemblies. Throughout our testing, assembly performance analysis seems to work really well overall and can lead you to some pretty powerful insights with respect to your top level assembly, subassemblies, and even individual components. Pair that with performance evaluation and assembly visualization, and your assemblies will be flying in no time. Next up, we have the Change Impact Analysis tool, which can help us identify the downstream implications of design changes before we make them. This type of analysis is something we often try to do manually as designers throughout the design process to avoid unintended consequences, but as you likely already know, it's very easy to forget a dependency and cause a change you didn't intend to make. In this example, I've used a fairly detailed prompt to ask which components will be affected if I increase the width of the guide rail component, and I'd like to point out that this component name includes the term guide rail, but the full name is actually much longer than that. So this tool is shown to be pretty good at determining what I'm talking about so far based on my less than perfect descriptions. In its response, it provides a full impact analysis on a per component basis, starting with the guide rail itself and reminding us that the rail itself may need to be further redesigned to accommodate the impact of this width change, considering structural integrity, for example. Moving on, we see that it detected the ball bearing carriage is impacted as well, which makes sense considering it slides along the guide rail. Naturally, it will need to be updated to fit the new rail geometry unless in-context design relationships are in place here. And third on the list is an assembly, specifically the subassembly containing both the guide rail and the ball bearing carriage. And the impact list is an interesting one. Due to the design changes, the subassembly as a whole will need to be re-evaluated to make sure the increased guide rail width hasn't caused any new component interferences within the subassembly or at the top level assembly. And this is something that I think would be much easier to forget when we're focused on the details of an individual component, so it's a good reminder. The remainder of the results are components and subassemblies that are unaffected, or additional instances of the ball bearing carriage that will be affected in a similar manner. And finally, we have a brief summary reiterating that the major impact will be seen in the ball bearing carriages, which will need to be redesigned to fit the new rails, along with another reminder to check the overall assembly for integrity. Now, I will admit this is a pretty simple example, but this tool seems very capable already, even at the beta stage, and it can likely help you catch some dependencies or impacts you may not have anticipated, even in more complex design scenarios. So as with the other tools we've seen so far, I'd encourage you to give the Change Impact Analysis tool a try on one of your designs. Now, unfortunately, this is where we reach our first tool that isn't quite ready for prime time yet, and that's the PLM Model Insights tool. Remember, these are all in beta mode, so they're in active development. And it's entirely possible that by the time you see this video, it's been fixed. So give it a shot anyway and see if it's working. The intent of this tool is pretty valuable. You can use prompts just like the previous tools to ask questions related to PLM properties like maturity state, CAD format, revision history, and so on, without digging through a bunch of menus like we'd normally have to do. In theory, we should be able to prompt the Model Insights tool to do something like list the maturity state for each component of this assembly, and it would return all the applicable information. But as of the recording of this video, in mid-May of 2026, the tool fails to respond properly, often saying that the information is unavailable or that the PLM data doesn't exist. It's difficult to say exactly what's causing this or if it'll get fixed before the next service pack is released, but either way, we'll be sure to cover it in more detail once it's been made fully functional. And we'd encourage you to at least give it a try and see if you can get it to work. Rounding out our list of AI tools today, we have the Sketch Doctor, which offers a bit more than Model Insights, but definitely still seems to be a work in progress. The idea is pretty straightforward. When you run into an issue or an error with a sketch, you pop the Sketch Doctor open and ask for a diagnosis. Now, what I will say is that the Sketch Doctor can provide some information and context. Here, for example, when I ask what's wrong with my sketch, it does correctly identify that it's overdefined. But that's pretty much all it gives me before sending me to the sketch expert to solve the issue, which I could have gotten to in one click without any prompting required. I decided to stress test this tool a bit further and see how it compares to the other existing tools like the What's Wrong dialog. And let's just say that the Sketch Doctor's degree might be honorary for now. In this example, I took a perfectly good boss extrude feature and added a line segment to the base sketch, causing an error due to the open contour. When we make it to the What's Wrong dialog, there's a new button labeled Ask Virtual Companion, which came out with Service Pack 1. And this functions similarly to our other AI tools, but it's semi-automated and has the context of the what's wrong dialog to work with. Very quickly, we're presented with not only the root cause, but a step-by-step set of instructions to fix it. Now, if we compare that to the sketch doctor's analysis of the same sketch, we get a very different opinion, which is to say that nothing's wrong with the sketch and everything is good to go. And yes, technically, there's nothing wrong with the sketch because we could use contour selection or other methods to make a valid selection. But for an AI tool, I'm expecting a bit more, considering the wealth of context I've given the tool to work with here. The last thing I'll say about the Sketch Doctor is that it can offer some useful information about sketches in general, especially for new users. When asked a leading question about why my sketch was still blue, it responded suggesting that the sketch was likely underdefined or has open contours, both of which would be valid starting points for a new user to check into. So while there are a few edge cases where the Sketch Doctor is useful today, we'll be keeping an eye on it to see how it develops in the future. Now, as we come to the end of this video, please keep in mind once again that many of these tools have been released in beta as of Service Pack 2, which means you're probably going to run into some strange behavior from time to time, and it may be a while before they're working at 100% or providing the type of value we've come to expect from AI tools. With that said, though, some of them can still be really helpful in certain situations, and we encourage you to check them out and see where they can be useful for you. It's also worth noting that SOLIDWORKS has made it very clear that they're going to continue on the route of further AI development. So if you like what you've seen so far, keep an eye out for future service packs to test out the latest AI tools as they debut. Before we go, I'd like to offer a quick on-screen recap of each of the new tools we've covered today, along with their use cases and benefits. Feel free to pause here for a closer look if you'd like, and remember there's a whole series of non-AI enhancements included with Service Pack 2 as well. So be sure to check out our video titled Service Pack 2 Enhancements 2026 for information on those. Until next time, thanks for watching What's New in SOLIDWORKS.